I'm Paul Majors.
And I'm Diana Pierce. Next on KARE-11 News, Saddam Hussein offers to leave Kuwait, but the price is steep.
Also, more new evidence that a ground war in the Gulf could happen at any time.
And Northwest Airlines considers drastic moves to stay competitive in tough times.
KARE-11 News is next.
It's goodbye Diane and Frazier, but not before old Sammy comes up with a pretty sexy send-off. Next time on Cheers.
Friday at 10:35 on KARE-11.
Arby's introduces the hottest new idea in fast food, cheese melts. Sorry, but they are melts. The new triple cheese melt starts with Arby's slow-roasted roast beef, topped with tangy cheddar, Swiss, and Parmesan cheese sauce, all melted together. I beg your pardon, but they are served warm. Then there's the new Philly cheese melt, topped with sautéed onions and green peppers, melted Swiss, and Parmesan cheese sauce. That's the triple cheese melt and Philly cheese melt, only at Arby's.
It's like nothing you've ever seen before. And once you see it, it may never happen again. It's the most dangerous, heart-stopping stunt ever attempted, plus 8 of the most awesome monster trucks in America, including Bigfoot, Gravedigger, Barefoot, and more. Supercharged, nitrous-powered, side-by-side mud racing. It's the U.S. Hot Rod Thrill Show Spectacular. Tickets now at all Ticketmaster locations. Saturday, February 23rd, the Metrodome. Be part of motorsports history.
From your 24-hour news station, this is Paul Majors, Diana Pierce, Tom Ryther, and meteorologist Paul Douglas. And this is KARE-11 News at 10.
Jubilation in the streets of Baghdad turns out to be short-lived. For a time today, the world thought the war might be coming to an end. Good evening. After 30 days of war, Saddam Hussein finally dropped his first bombshell, an offer to withdraw from Kuwait.
But it also came with a variety of strings attached that President Bush refuses to accept.
Saddam's announcement caught the world by surprise. In exchange for leaving Kuwait, he proposed that the Allies pay for rebuilding the war damage to Iraq. He called on the Allies to pull their troops out of the Middle East, and he demanded that Israel withdraw from the occupied territories. President Bush blasted those conditions in the strongest possible terms. He called Saddam's offer a cruel hoax. He accused Saddam of building the world's hopes, then dashing them. He also suggested Iraqi citizens have the power to end the war.
And there's another way for the bloodshed to stop, and that is for the Iraqi military and the Iraqi people to take matters into their own hands and force Saddam Hussein, the dictator, to step aside.
The United Nations resolution ordering Iraq out of Kuwait calls for an unconditional withdrawal, and President Bush says he won't accept any plan linking Saddam's pullout with any other issues.
The Allied war machine didn't so much as blink while today's events were unfolding. In fact, bombing raids escalated against Iraqi positions inside the Kuwaiti border with Saudi Arabia. This video shows the fires resulting from bombing runs made by the 82nd Airborne. It's believed the new offenses are designed to pave the way for a possible ground invasion.
There are other indications tonight that the ground war could happen at any time. Tens of thousands of Marines are reportedly on the move in Saudi Arabia, but the Pentagon isn't commenting. Meanwhile, Saddam Hussein apparently thinks the ground war is coming soon. The U.S. military has intercepted radio communications between Baghdad and Iraqi troops in Kuwait. According to NBC News, Iraqi generals are telling Baghdad that it appears an Allied invasion could happen at any time.
The soldiers of Desert Storm learned of Saddam's offer on Armed Forces radio. Even as they prepare in Saudi Arabia for a ground war, they're standing behind President Bush's tough stand. NBC's Steve Handelsman has the latest from the front lines.
These artillery gunners are still eager to fight.
Let's go do it and get the hell home.
But for a while today, their job looked done.
We got our hopes up, but, you know, like I said, we're behind Bush all the way.
That's what every U.S. soldier told me tonight. If their commander-in-chief says Saddam's offer is a hoax, that's good enough for them.
I believe in what the president has to say. Basically, we're still alert. We're still doing our job.
Because you can't take any chances right now to take somebody's word saying they're going to back out this war.
Hey, we're the United States. We don't back down for nobody.
Coalition forces certainly didn't back down today. Allied pilots were up hammering Saddam's frontline soldiers. And frontline Americans practiced. They'll blow up Iraqi minefields.
both squad, green, up and up.
And they'll try to move quickly through the maze of Iraqi trenches and traps in a cloud of dust and bullets. The ground war that looks tonight nearly impossible to stop. In northeastern Saudi Arabia, this is Steve Handelsman.
And tonight, NBC reports that the prevailing mood at the Pentagon is that preparations for a ground offensive have reached the point of no return.
If a ground war breaks out, the Apache attack helicopter could play a key role in protecting U.S. soldiers. It's one of the Army's most sophisticated war machines. As KARE 11's Brad Woodard reports, Minnesota is a testing ground for future versions of the Apache.
Like a giant flying insect, it sits poised in a Duluth hangar. The Apache helicopter, one of the most sophisticated weapons in the U.S. arsenal, with more computer capacity than even the space shuttle.
It's a hell of a lot of fun. It's got a lot of power. It's extremely nimble for being the size that it is.
Pilot Mark Metzger and the Apache are in Duluth to test a new engine in cold weather. The engine is designed to reduce fuel consumption while boosting power by 10%. Engineers monitored the progress from a control center in the hangar as the Apache skimmed the trees of northern Minnesota. The Apache is working in conjunction with the Air Force behind the lines in Kuwait and Iraq to hit strategic targets. But if and when the war takes to the ground, it will remain in the air, supporting the troops below. The aircraft's infrared vision capability, combined with a 30mm cannon, missiles, and rockets, allows the pilot to sneak up on a target in darkness. And while some critics say the Apache is so sophisticated it spends more time on the ground being repaired than in the air, test pilots in Duluth have nothing but praise for its capability.
The aircraft was designed to allow the operator to find targets that we historically have not been able to find.
The cold weather flights here in Duluth basically conclude the testing of the new engine, which is already being used in some Apaches. It's all a matter of advanced planning. Just because we're fighting in the desert now, they say, doesn't mean we won't one day be fighting in a colder climate. Brad Woodard, KARE 11 News, Duluth.
The Army says eventually all Apache helicopters will be refitted with the engines that are currently being tested in Duluth.
And one other note concerning the Gulf tonight. CBS now believes its missing television crew is alive in Iraq. 3 independent sources have told the network that the 4-man crew headed by reporter Bob Simon is being held in Baghdad. CNN reports they're in good health and are being questioned by Iraqi intelligence. The U.S. military is trying desperately to improve its mail service to and from troops in the Gulf. Today it asked that Americans voluntarily limit their military mail to first-class letters and audio cassettes. The sheer volume of mail is slowing service. Postal officials say all letters should have a return address. White envelopes with dark ink go through the computer mail system faster, but exact addresses are most important.
They should be sure to put the rank and name and serial number, as well as the name of the unit and the correct APO or FPO in the address.
The Military Postal Service agency is handling 162 tons of mail in Saudi Arabia every day. If you're unsure about addresses for the troops or have other questions about the war, you can call our Gulf Crisis Hotline. Operators are on duty until 11 o'clock every night, and the number is 542-1111.
Honeywell admits tonight that mistakes may have been made, but there was no intent to break the law. The company is referring to a technical report concerning a powerful weapon called the fuel-air bomb. Honeywell's report was sold to Middle Eastern interests in 1984 and may have ended up in the hands of Saddam Hussein. In its 2-month investigation, Honeywell found that internal policies for approving the sale were violated, but it found no evidence of a sale to Iraq and no evidence anyone at Honeywell broke the law. A former Honeywell scientist who argued against the sale 7 years ago is not comfortable with the investigation's results.
I certainly would hope that they would get control of projects that they authorize better than they had in the past.
Honeywell has forwarded the results of its investigation to the Pentagon. No disciplinary action will be taken against any workers because the material wasn't classified, and there's no evidence that any laws were broken.
In other news, African-American teenagers marched through St. Paul's Skyway system today to make a point. Several dozen youngsters walked through the Skyway and later gathered for a forum. The event was in response to comments about black teens and crime attributed to St. Paul Police Chief William McCutcheon last weekend. The teens want it known that they're not criminals. They say it's unfair and racist to blame just black youngsters for problems in the skyways. There are two new developments tonight concerning Northwest Airlines.
One involves cutting costs, the other spending $35.5 million. First, the spending. A federal bankruptcy court judge okayed Northwest's bid to buy part of Eastern Airlines' Washington, D.C. operations. Both Northwest and United were fighting to buy Eastern's gates and landing slots at Washington National Airport. United made the higher bid, but still lost. The judge decided United was already strong enough in D.C. and that selling to Northwest would improve competition. Currently, Northwest has 4 gates in Washington. It will add 5 more under the deal.
At the same time Northwest was writing a big check, its chairman was asking pilots to accept smaller ones. Northwest lost more than $100 million during the last quarter, so management is asking pilots for a 10% cut in salaries and another 10% cut in benefits. Chairman Al Checky met behind closed doors with the pilots in Bloomington today. Union leaders say they're listening but aren't sold.
There are obvious concerns as to, are we in a real financial crisis? And I think it's important. He pointed out, and I've tried to emphasize it, that the company is not in a financial crisis. We're in a crisis. The airline industry is in a crisis. Northwest Airlines is not about to run out of money.
Northwest has opened its books to the pilots' union. The union says it's studying them, and it may be weeks before they decide what, if anything, they're willing to give up.
The best news about tonight's frigid weather is it'll be over in a matter of hours. Ken Barlow is in for Paul Douglas with a toe-warming forecast.
Also, why many people out east would probably trade their weather for ours.
In sports, a local skater is in position to capture a medal at the national championships.
But next, a closer look at whether Saddam Hussein is ready to talk peace.
Ember's $3.99 steak and eggs, 2 farm fresh eggs, 3 buttermilk pancakes, hash brown potatoes, and a USDA choice sirloin steak, only $3.99, 24 hours a day for a limited time. Remember the Embers. You'll be glad you did.
You know, when I was a kid and got a hold of a nickel, I thought I was rich. I didn't turn up my nose at pennies either. Today, some folks won't even bend to pick them up. Well, here's a bowl of steaming Quaker oatmeal. And I can't think of a healthier way to start the day. Costs you 1 nickel and 4 pennies. So if you can't be bothered with nickels and pennies, throw them in a jar. Start an oatmeal fund. Quaker Oats. It's the right thing to do. Not too expensive either.
It's morning, and another day. There are kids to get dressed, breakfast to be made. But for a few moments, you have a little time to think of what this is all about. What it's about is big people helping little people to be big themselves one day. It's not easy. But what else could you possibly do that could ever be so important? MJB wishes you a good morning and a wonderful day.
Regrettably, the Iraq statement now appears to be a cruel hoax.
Even though the president and many others denounced Saddam Hussein's conditional pullout offer from Kuwait, some believe it's a signal that diplomacy may yet end the war. Paul takes a closer look at that issue in tonight's Eye of the Storm. Paul?
Thanks, Di. Reaction to Iraq's proposal is mixed among world leaders. British Prime Minister John Major blasted it as a bogus sham. Israeli Prime Minister Perez called it a sign that Saddam's military resolve is weakening. UN Secretary General de Cuellar was more positive. He said the offer deserves careful consideration. And the Soviets seem optimistic. President Mikhail Gorbachev welcomed the plan with, quote, satisfaction and hope. The question is, should we find any hope in today's developments? And 2 local experts join us tonight to help us make some sense of that. Our viewers may remember Pat Quinlan, a retired diplomat who spent many years in the Middle East. Also joining us tonight is Abdalla Battah, a native of Jordan, who's now an assistant professor of political science, at the University of Minnesota. Should we find hope in the fact that at least Saddam appears to be putting something on the table? Pat?
I certainly think so. He said something very new, something he's never said before. He said that he would withdraw from Kuwait, accept Security Council Resolution 660. That's very different from what he said before.
And referred to it as Kuwait.
Indeed.
Instead of the 19th, I think, Iraqi province. Your perceptions of that?
Yes, indeed. I think it was a serious offer, and I think it has a couple of items that were new. First of all, accepting to withdraw from Kuwait. This is a first. And the second is to take the first step rather than insist on simultaneous withdrawal of Allied and Iraqi troops.
If it was a serious offer, then I guess what I'm surprised at is that perhaps Saddam Hussein and President Bush aren't on the same playing field. Here comes the offer. The president not only rejects it, but then says to the Iraqi people, you have the power to end this war. I mean, he's calling for a coup.
Yes, I agree with you. I think they seem to be talking past each other. They are definitely on two different wavelengths. Saddam Hussein wants to start a negotiating process. President Bush doesn't seem to be interested in that. I am afraid that President Bush has at some time, perhaps even before January 15th, reached the conclusion that the United States will not find it acceptable for Saddam Hussein to remain in power in the aftermath of this crisis. And therefore, that will not be achieved through a peaceful settlement, through a negotiated settlement. It will have to be achieved militarily. Essentially, what the president has accepted is the notion that Saddam Hussein, should he remain in power after the crisis, then he will be conceived or perceived by the Arab masses and others as a political winner, even though he could very well be devastated militarily.
Pat, do you see that, the Bush administration wanting him out of office, out of the way?
I'm afraid so. A lot of Americans would probably call this President Bush's very quick statement a very quick and confident statement. I would call it hasty and harsh, not designed to draw Saddam into discussion, appearing to rule out any possibility of negotiations. He makes it appear that he wants the quick and dirty solution rather than the protracted, complicated, long drawn-out negotiations.
It really would seem to me that that's not a possibility for Saddam just simply to step down. There is no life for Saddam other than being a dictator.
Exactly, and I think it is also natural for Saddam Hussein to come with a maximalist position. After all, this is what the negotiating process is supposed to do.
So maybe he was saying, here's my offer, now let's talk, and we'll end up somewhere else.
Exactly. In fact, I don't think the items that are mentioned alongside his withdrawal are conditions. My understanding of the Arab text these were items that are linked and not necessarily to be solved concurrently or simultaneously with the Kuwaiti issue. These are to be addressed. The United States, of course, can then ask for further clarification from Saddam Hussein. It could ask a mediator to bring back to him a counteroffer, a timetable for the withdrawal. What we saw, obviously, from the President Bush statement is a rejection of the entire proposal, which essentially dampened any hopes for a resolved settlement.
Pat, given what the President said today, would there be any inkling at all, given all your years of diplomatic experience, that something back channel, back door might be taking place?
The last faint hope we have, I think, Paul, is that Saddam's envoy is going to Moscow on Sunday. Now, of course, we're in close contact with the Soviets at this point. If President Bush is prepared to negotiate, there's an opportunity through the Soviets, and very soon. And this is absolutely the last faint hope.
You know, another question. We have the USS America is now in the Persian Gulf, the aircraft carrier. Much of its aircraft would provide cover for ground troops. Tonight we also know, according to the wires and according to Fred Francis from NBC News, that tens of thousands of Marines are on the move along the border. A ground war does look imminent. Do you think that had something to do with Saddam coming up with this offer now?
Well, it would look like that, in fact, if President Bush, in fact, as I have stated earlier, has concluded that war and military solution is the only solution, then this would seem to put a greater pressure on him to take action sooner than later, because then there will be greater pressure from the Soviets and others should Saddam Hussein tomorrow come out and say that, look, I'm going to withdraw, period, and therefore that will essentially foil the United States' attempt to go further.
And Pat, we should keep our eyes and ears on Moscow then, for the time being.
we can hope that if Saddam is playing brinkmanship, he hasn't waited too late.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for coming in and joining us tonight. We do appreciate it. That's it, Di. Let's go back to you.
Thanks, Paul. We'll be back with all of tonight's sports news and an improving weekend forecast after the salute to some of the Minnesotans serving in Operation Desert Storm.
It's goodbye Diane and Frazier, but not before old Sammy comes up with a pretty sexy send-off. Next time on Cheers.
Friday at 10:35 on KARE-11.
Head to Menards Hardware Department this week for big savings. Quick-set brass lock sets are on sale now. Choose from Passage, Privacy, and Entry lock sets. This Polo Passage lock set is just $4.99. And save on the handy Zircon stud sensor, too. It locates studs electronically and eliminates guesswork when pounding nails in walls. Now only $7.99. Menards is your store for quality hardware.
Save big money at Menards.
Stranded on an alien planet.
We have captured one of their spies.
A case of mistaken identity endangers Ryther's life.
I have to get back on my ship.
And survival lies in the hands of the enemy.
Stop him! He's escaping!
Will you release my officer?
We're not giving him back.
I believe that Riker will not survive the day.
Starfleet Crisis on an all-new episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Saturday at 6 on KARE-11.
You're watching KARE-11 News at 10.
In Dateline's Missouri, fire investigators think a propane leak may be responsible for a devastating explosion at a resort hotel. 17 people were hurt in the blast early this morning at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. One of the injured is in critical condition. All of the victims work for the Missouri Transportation Department. NASA rolled the Space Shuttle Discovery onto its launch pad today. The shuttle is scheduled to carry out a military mission next month. Among its assignments, releasing a satellite to monitor its own exhaust. The Pentagon will use that information to help identify the exhaust of enemy missiles. And Old Man Winter is blasting a big part of the middle eastern United States tonight. Residents of South Bend, Indiana are struggling with more than a foot of snow today, but the worst may be yet to come. Another foot could fall there before the storm has gone by.
Ken Barlow is in for Paul Douglas this evening. We're actually going to be seeing nicer temperatures.
Yeah, already. It'd be warmer when you go out than when we came in tonight.
That's great.
If that makes any sense.
You going to make this? You did sunrise this morning at 6 a.m., which means you got into the station around 4, right?
I'm struggling, but
Did you get a nap in the meantime?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
well,
good.
My wife took the kids out, and I was fine.
You fall over there, just do it from the floor.
Just get a shovel and push me out the door. Yeah. Okay, it's cold out there, no doubt about that, but it will be getting warmer, and temperatures are on the rise already. We see it. Today was only 9. Now, this was only the second day so far this month that we've actually had a below normal daylight high temperature. 10 below the low temperature this morning. We will not get near that tomorrow morning. Trace of precipitation, we had a sunrise at 7:13. Sunset getting later and later. We're over 10 hours now of daylight. 4 degrees right now, and we're on our way up. We can see temperatures across the 5-state region look like this. We have many areas reporting still some cold temperatures, especially here in Minnesota. But you get out to the west and look at already down towards the Black Hills there, 35 degrees at Rapid City. And we will see that warming trend over the next several hours. Again, temperatures are on the rise. It's a slow, painful process, but it's happening. We are looking for southwesterly winds to develop as high pressure, which is now down to the south, continues to slide toward the east coast. Look at this at Billings in Montana. It's 50 degrees at this hour. We're not looking for 50, but we certainly will be looking for a warming trend overnight tonight, and especially over the upcoming weekend. We won't see that 50, but we will be seeing temperatures very much right around normal, 30 in fact, right around the Twin Cities. You get out to the west though and look at Rapid City. They've had an abnormally warm February. Down to the southwest it'll be in the 50s, 40s throughout most of South Dakota, but again here it looks like 30s, and after that, you know, there's no Arctic air in sight. Western Canada seems to be warming up. The jet stream seems to be calming down a little bit, so there will be a little bit of flurry activity tomorrow, but also much, much warmer temperatures. I'll come back with all the details right after this.
It's like nothing you've ever seen before. And once you see it, it may never happen again. It's the most dangerous, heart-stopping stunt ever attempted, plus 8 of the most awesome monster trucks in America, including Bigfoot, Gravedigger, Barefoot, and more. Supercharged, nitrous-powered, side-by-side mud racing. It's the U.S. Hot Rod Thrill Show Spectacular. Tickets now at all Ticketmaster locations. Saturday, February 23rd, the Metrodome. Be part of motorsports history.
Buying a home, college for the kids, retirement. Milestones in life that really matter. But will you be prepared? I'm Linda Brooke. The people at First Banks in KARE-11 understand that planning your finances can be a challenging, even intimidating process, and we'd like to help.
First Banks and KARE-11 introduced the How To series. Simple guidebooks that show you how to plan to meet your financial goals in life. They're available free at any First Bank location.
In real estate, as with all things in life, the cream rises to the top. Those agents who are full-time, experienced, and who are the top producers end up where they belong. With RE/MAX, above the crowd.
Attention shoppers, would everyone please leave the store? We're just too busy to take your money right now.
This is what a busy signal can sound like to your customers.
Kindly go away and take your business someplace else.
So make sure you have all the phone lines you need, because it's not just a phone line, it's your bottom line.
You, sir, with a hat, put it down. And thank you for trying to shop here.
U.S. West, making the most of your time.
Okay, once again, at this time of year, the good news is that these cold snaps do not last very long, and already tomorrow we are looking for a warm-up right around 30 degrees here in the Twin Cities. Let's look at the details now. Once again, rising temperatures tonight. It will become cloudy, though. Winds are southwesterly now. That will make the temperature go up and up and up. How far up? Tomorrow, I think we'll hit that 30-degree mark, but it'll also be mostly cloudy. There'll be a little light snow and flurries around. No big storm, but you don't get something for nothing. You can quote me on that. Sunday, look for some scattered flurries. Still a lot of clouds around, but look at these temperatures. 28, a little light snow Monday, and 29, 27, and again, some flurries on Tuesday. So a little bit unsettled. No bright sunny days like we had today, but we don't have the Arctic air to worry about either.
Yeah, the sun will return eventually.
Eventually. A little bit tomorrow, but more clouds and sun.
All right, thanks, Ken.
You're welcome.
Oh, a lot is on the line this weekend for dozens of high school dancers. Several thousand spectators attended the opening night of high school dance line competition at the St. Paul Civic Center. 70 dance lines from around the state competed tonight. Teams in tomorrow's finals include Bloomington Kennedy, Rosemont, Wayzata, Burnsville, Mounds View, Minnetonka, and Apple Valley.
What would you be willing to do for a free trip to New York?
Well, that kind of question went to the head of one Minnesota woman. Later, we'll find out what's behind her hair-raising experience.
But next in sports, the U.S. Skating Championships build for a dramatic finish.
Tonight's KARE-11 weather has been brought to you in part by Royal Caribbean.
Won't you sail away now, where the sun warms every shore? The Caribbean calls you with the sweet sea breeze and more.
Discover the joys of Royal Caribbean's Caribbean. 3 to 10 night cruises to the Bahamas, Virgin Islands, Barbados, and more on the grand resorts of the 7 seas.
Being good neighbors, we dropped by our competitors for breakfast. We noticed right away that the Belgian waffles we serve at Perkins are bigger and fluffier than theirs. Our omelets are stuffed inside and out, too. Theirs weren't. We serve unlimited cups of delicious coffee. They don't do that either. So, guys, let's get together again. But please, can we do it at our place? And now, for a limited time, try our 3-egg ham and cheese omelet with buttermilk pancakes or toast for only $3.49. Only at Perkins.
Now your favorite show is even more fun when you play Cheers Trivia. Dial 1-900-HOT-SHOW, answer 6 questions correctly, and win $500. $2 per minute will be charged to your phone. Play Cheers Trivia anytime and catch all the laughs Monday through Sunday at 10:35 on KARE-11.
Every business morning, while the rest of the world is getting up, UPS is guaranteeing overnight delivery before 10:30. to the most people, places, and businesses, or up to half what other companies charge. And every business morning, more people are waking up to that fact.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Zero in on the $100,000 pyramid with host John Davidson.
Weekdays at 4 on KARE-11.
We're just talking during the Daily 3 numbers there because none of us won that.
Right, that would go in the jog.
No, we never win, though.
Yeah, the figure skating, they've had good crowds at night and kind of so-so during the day.
Yes, but
that's probably typical for this
right.
kind of thing.
This coming weekend, though, it's going to be packed city because we're down to the nitty-gritty. The U.S. Figure Skating Championships, yes, they are building to a closing crescendo set to take place over the weekend. We have another local skater in position to win a medal. Robin Petrosky, whom we featured on KARE-11 News last year, has moved into 4th place in the junior ladies figures after today's original program at the Target Center. Robin attended Armstrong High School before moving to Colorado Springs for advanced training. It's obviously paying off. She can make her move into medal territory at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. Tonight, the men's figure skating competition took front and center with the original programs. This is the defending champion, Todd Eldridge of Los Angeles, doing his original program. He finished in 2nd place tonight behind Christopher Bowman, who received top votes from 8 of the 9 judges. It'll all come down to Sunday at 2 p.m. when the free skating competition takes place. Bowman, however, in the driver's seat, and Eldridge, his work is really cut out. Our attention now turns to a pair of state skiing championships events today with the slalom competition at Welch Village and the cross country at Bowabic. First, we'll go to the slalom competition. This is the boys' individual winner, Mike Nelms out of Edina. He came from behind to beat Forest Lake's Dallas Nord by 0.02 of a second. Duluth East took the boys' team title. On the girls' side, Edina beat Stillwater on a tiebreaker with Minnetonka junior Ann Halverson winning the girls' individual crown. Now, meanwhile, at the cross-country meet in Bowabic, Tori Crafson of Hastings winning the boys' state title. Crafson's time, 26 minutes, 35 seconds for the 10K. He is the defending champion. The St. Paul Central won both the boys' and girls' team titles. The girls' individual winner right here is Heather Chickanowski of Winona. Rachel Allen of St. Paul Central is in 2nd position. The Timberwolves are hoping to end their 3-game losing streak. They're in Los Angeles playing the Clippers, and the Clippers have lost 6 straight. Let's go to the scoreboard. Not good so far for the Timberwolves, but that can change in a hurry as you see the Clippers leading in the 2nd. Other games tonight, we have New Jersey over Denver, Milwaukee a winner by 3, Cleveland over New York by 5, and Dallas jumping all over Washington. Let's go to some boys basketball in the evening. Edina winning the Lake Blue with a win over Hopkins. Park Center a winner. Roosevelt over Edison. Elk River posting a win. Cretin-Derham Hall rolling over Humboldt, and Woodbury a winner tonight. In girls basketball, Edina over Hopkins by 10. We have Osseo over Kennedy. Egan defeating Richfield. Prior Lake losing to Hutchinson. We have Hill Murray over Stillwater, and Blaine downing Coon Rapids. As we mentioned earlier this week, a new hockey league will attempt to start play next October in St. Paul. It'll be called the Continental Hockey Association, and Glenn Sonmore may be the coach and general manager. If that happens, it would be like old times, the old WHA days at the Civic Center, and those were fun days. Let's go to the scoreboard now. The North Stars, by the way, will be at Detroit tomorrow as we check out NHL action from tonight. The Rangers over Hartford, Montreal, Buffalo tied. Calgary leading in the 2nd. In the WCHA, Northern Michigan now 1 win away from winning that title. Wisconsin tying St. Cloud State. And if you are frustrated by the Mideast war and Saddam Hussein's antics, you might try hitting a few golf balls with his picture on them. A company in Albany, Georgia, has come up with the idea of stamping golf balls with Hussein's picture on them with Jam Saddam printed below the pictures. Only in America could such an enterprise spring up, as the manufacturers are hoping it will relieve Desert Storm tensions and raise some profits at the same time. A little corny, but maybe take out some frustrations.
All right. Thanks, Tommy. Before we go, why a Minnesota woman will trade a few weeks of embarrassment for a free trip to the Grammys.
But first, another reminder about our Gulf Crisis Hotline. Operators are ready to answer your calls about the war until 11 tonight. The number again is 542-1111.
Tonight's KARE-11 Sports has been brought to you in part by Bladex.
It's hard to believe a farm exists that has no need for the versatility of Bladex herbicide. No need for burn down and residual weed control in corn. No need to rotate without carryover. No need to tank mix with dual or lasso. But in fact, there's a school of farmers who have no need for Bladex at all. Then again, they're not growing corn. You are.
No matter how long a person has worked here, there is a sense of the tradition in this place. It's the street corner of Minnesota, in a sense, where opinions, divergent opinions, and differing thoughts and differing views of things sort of come together. And we air that and help with the discussion and discourse of issues of the day. And that's real fun to be a part of that. News you want, people you know.
This job of mine requires a lot of travel. I've circled the globe any number of times. And yet, when I come back to the Twin Cities area, I'm always aware that I'm in a metropolitan area on the cutting edge of urban change. And I'm grateful to know that KARE-11 is there to cover it.
Before we go tonight, some people will do anything for a freebie. Consider Abby Bruin of Buffalo. She allowed her head to be shaved, nearly bald today, live on the air during Steve Cochran's morning show on KDWB. The station cooked up this hair-raising scheme to find someone who looked at least a little bit like singer Sinead O'Connor. O'Connor is boycotting the upcoming Grammy Awards, so the radio station decided to send its own replacement. As a reward for her embarrassment, Abby will be flown to New York for the Grammys on Tuesday.
And all she has to do is just make it a little darker.
Mm-hmm. It's a haircut my father would love. That's what he used to just put that rake on there and then he would look around and admire your head like it was really a good haircut.
Yeah.
All weekend long, he'd just stand there and he'd look at you.
How long
and
would it take it to grow in? And
oh,
months.
Weeks.
Weeks.
Yeah, weeks. We'll see you back here Monday. Have a good weekend.
Riker's trapped on an alien planet.
Stop him!
With no hope of escape on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Saturday at 6 on KARE-11.
There's a time for love, a time for peace, and a time to show you care.
KARE-11 invites you to share our pride in the USA. Just send us a self-addressed stamped envelope and we'll send you one of these flags free. Together we'll show we care.
To learn about recycling programs in your neighborhood, call The Connection at 922-9000.
Sometimes you wanna go.
Now your favorite show is even more fun when you play Cheers Trivia. Dial 1-900-HOT-SHOW. Answer 6 questions correctly and win $500. Questions like, what color socks does Cliff usually wear? Or what American city is home to Cheers? Call 1-900-HOT-SHOW. $2 per minute will be charged to your phone. Play Cheers Trivia anytime and catch all the laughs Monday through Sunday at 10:35 p.m. on KARE-11.
Cheers is filmed before a live